Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture, and this is Billboard Breakdown. So this week was kind of weird. I'm not gonna say it was a bad week, it definitely wasn't. There's enough quality coming up new that I'm not precisely gonna call this bad, but there are both shifts and new arrivals that extend all the way up to our top 10 that deserve some real investigation, because they are kind of strange. So no point wasting any more time, let's start off with our top 10, where for some ungodly reason, Closer by the Chainsmokers featuring Halsey is still at number 1. I mean, it's understandable, it's leading in every single category, but that lead is shrinking considerably, and Starboy by The Weeknd and Daft Punk is right on its tail across the board at number 2. This leaves Heathens by 21 Pilots in a bit of an awkward place at number 3. It's gaining streaming, losing YouTube, solid airplay, slipping on sales. Let Me Love You by DJ Snake and Justin Bieber is arguably faring better at number 4 thanks to stronger streaming and airplay momentum, but it's slipping on sales, which can be all kinds of awkward. And I say all that because of our big new debut in the top 5 this week, 24 Karat Magic by Bruno Mars. Now, I'll talk more about the quality of the song a little bit later on, but for now, it's got all the hallmarks of a strong Bruno Mars debut. A ton of airplay, the radio loves this guy, and the sales, with streaming and YouTube struggling to fully catch up. It's definitely got momentum behind it at this point, and will probably disrupt even more in further weeks. And here's the thing, it's not like there's anything coming up behind him that's got the power to stop this song. Broccoli by Dram featuring Lil Yachty is still inching its way up the radio with only okay sales. It's strong on streaming, but I can't see it going higher than there. I can't see it passing number 6. And Cold Water by Major Lazer, Justin Bieber, and Mia fares even worse at number 7. It's bleeding airplay, sales are weak, and even streaming and YouTube are starting to slip a little bit here. Treat You Better by Shawn Mendes also took a hit this week too at number 8, with even weaker sales and only holding where it is thanks to not dropping on the radio quite as fast. And Cheap Thrills by Sia featuring Sean Paul is continuing to fall hard at number 9, as airplay and weak sales are really the only thing that's got left at this point. And this takes us to our second new top 10 entry, Side to Side by Ariana Grande featuring Nicki Minaj. Not a lot to complain about here. I actually kind of like the song after all, and from the looks of things, it might stick around for a fair bit, with decent YouTube and streaming compensating for some weaker sales and the fact that radio has been very hesitant to embrace it. And knowing what the song's about, I'm not surprised about that at all. But let's moving away from that fun topic, let's dig into our losers and dropouts. And now it's not a false alarm slipping off the charts for probably just a week or two. The video's doing great, that song will be back. I'm not really complaining a lot here. The best of these losses is Why You're Always Hating by YG featuring Drake and Kamaya. And even then, YG's had far better songs he could have used as singles from that record. Why isn't Twist My Fingers a single yet? And yet, if he's taken Low Life by Future in The Weeknd and Make You Miss Me by Sam Hunt with him, I'm not complaining. Our list of losses was significantly larger. So let's start off with the ones that have been losing consistently. Forever Country fades down to 97 as the novelty goes away. Perfect Illusion by Lady Gaga continues to flop hard to 95. Peter Pan by Kelsey Ballerini is sadly on its way out at 94. And This Girl by Kungs vs. Cooking on Three Burners is continuing down to 65. Then you have the debuts that just lost their traction, like Cranes in the Sky by Solange at 99. No real crossover potential, so even though I'm disappointed, I'm not really surprised with this. And All We Know by the Chainsmokers featuring Phoebe Ryan fell down to 38. Maybe a sign that shamelessly ripping yourself off might not be the best strategy. The rest of our losses, well, okay, the only one that's been around for a while in the Hot 100 is You and Me by Mark E. Basie and G-Eazy sliding to 87 after failing to catch on. And the spurt behind Kanye West Fade with Ty Dolla $ign and Post Malone is long out as it fell down to 64. Then there's a loss for Mercy by Shawn Mendes. Yeah, it's a better song, the best song from that album, but it's not really catching on, so it slid down to 89. I Met a Girl by William Michael Morgan lost harder to 78, but it really peaked on country radio, and it's been around for a while on the country charts, so I'm not surprised it's starting to go away a little early. The loss that did surprise me was This Town by Niall Horan dropping hard to 54. I guess the novelty kind of wore out pretty quick for a pretty basic song, but I honestly thought it could have more staying power. It's a good song. It happens, I guess. As for our gains and returning entries, well, there were no returning entries and precious few gains, and well, I could talk about Fresh Eyes by Andy Grammer getting another light boost to 84, or Song for Another Time by Old Dominion picking up to 81 as country radio searches for something to fill time, or You Don't Own Me by Grace and G-Eazy surging again to 61 thanks to a car commercial of all things. But none of those are the real concern here. Nope, that comes for Juju on Dat Beat, TZ Anthem by Zayn McCall and Zay Hilfiger. Look, I thought we left these viral dance novelties in 2015, so why in the nine hells is this rocketing up to number 11? The charts are only starting to get better now, so why are we giving streaming and sales to this forgettable novelty nonsense? Granted, it's not the only novelty track to gain traction this week, but we'll get to that in a second. In the meantime, this should not be here. Well, no more point wasting any more time. We got a lot of new arrivals, starting off with number 96, Kids by OneRepublic. Now, I briefly mentioned this song when I talked about OneRepublic's last album, Oh My My, last week, and I remember there being some surprise that I didn't really hate this song as nearly as much as some people did. And here's the thing, I don't hate the song. I actually think it's pretty good. Sure, the acoustic groove and atmospheric effects really are just warmed over Coldplay with too much reverb, but the hook's got some punch, especially with the deeper kick drum breakdowns, almost to the point where Ryan Tedder's falsetto caterwauling can be mostly tolerable. My niggling issue with the song has always been in the pre-chorus and the hook. The verse is set up that the protagonist was going to say something wild or crazy, and yet when we snap to the hook, it's OneRepublic talking about how they're not going to idolize their past, remember it fondly but not be blinded by nostalgia. The sentiment is good. I like the over ideas here, but the structure of the song is just kind of misaligned, and it's always bugged me a little bit. Still, while this is far from a great song, or even one of the best from Oh My My, it's not bad either. I'm okay that it's here. Number 85, Ain't My Fault by Zara Larsson.
It ain't my fault.
I got told by a lot of people that this is gonna be the song that would sour me on Zara Larsson, and as such, I hadn't opted to listen to it before filming this episode, if only because Never Forget You was pretty good and Lush Life was awesome. This, okay, it's not better than either of those songs, and pretty much for all the reasons I think everybody was expecting coming from me. I'm not wild about the stuttered syllables in the writing or how much Larsson's trying to channel Rihanna in her vocals, and that thin horn driving the melody might be kinda catchy, but it's got no body to it. And the lyrics, well, okay, points for Larsson for changing them from stealing some other girl's boyfriend to just falling head over heels for some guy, but the whole ain't my fault sentiment doesn't nearly work as well as she thinks it does. Flip the genders of the song, and I reckon it'd be a lot more controversial, be a lot more pronounced there. And yet, I don't hate this. The melody might be thinner than I would like, but it is there, and there is some swell and bombast to it, especially on the bridge, and Zara Larsson is one hell of a presence behind the microphone. Almost certainly she'd do better than Rihanna would in this vein with this sort of song. So yeah, this, not bad, it's okay, good enough. I'll take it. Number 82, All Time Low by Jon Bellion. So, this new Jon Bellion song. If I said that it sucked, how many of you would completely lose your shit? I'm kidding, obviously, but it's very telling that when some of you preemptively reached out to me to talk about this song, especially when, if you had watched my Jon Bellion review, you should already know how I feel about this track. But in case you missed it, All Time Low is a fine enough track. The choppy blend of organ with chunky percussion and Jon Bellion doing his best Owl City impression can feel kind of awkward, especially with all that pitch shifting thrown in, which isn't really needed. But by the time we get to the bridge, the flow smooths out and the song builds to a swell that's a lot more endearing, especially with all those horns and some of Bellion's slight sigh midway through the build-up. It's a really human moment that I liked. If I say the song stumbles anywhere, it'd be in some of the lyrics. Forgive me, but repeating the word low to fill out multiple choruses strikes me as a little bit lazy. But beyond that, it's just a post-breakup wallow where Jon Bellion talks about masturbation by himself, which is actually a Billy Joel reference that I can at least kind of appreciate there. It's kind of well framed. No, it's not better than 80s movies or Morning in America Gaga or especially Hand of God. But hey, if this song's success means we can get those coming around down the line, I'll take it, because honestly, this is a pretty good song regardless. I like it. Number 77, Pen, Pineapple, Apple Pen by Piko-Taro.
Apple pen, I have a pen, I have pineapple. Pineapple pen, apple pen, pineapple pen. Pen, pineapple, apple pen.
Okay, so here's the problem with doing Billboard breakdown for around 100 episodes. People, they're gonna often hype up certain tracks in the expectation that I'm just gonna go crazy about how bad or good they are, especially when they're more of a novelty song anyway. Of course, it bothers me that memes are gonna be responsible for pushing some music onto the charts, especially when the memes are just getting promoted by Justin freaking Bieber. But there are such thing as some good novelties, especially if they're kind of funny. So in principle, there's no reason that I shouldn't like Pen, Pineapple, Apple Pen, which is made by a fictional songwriter, Piko-Taro, which was created by Japanese comedian Damiao Kosaka. Of course, I don't really like it. The synth layering is cheap and lazy. It's clearly trying to hit that meme space, and it's nowhere near as funny or weird as other attempted memes in this variety. And as there's no real point of rating this as a song, let's rate it as a meme, shall we? We got 5 meme points for being Japanese, 10 meme points for being LOLXD random, 15 meme points for the usage of fruit and writing supplies in combination, in tandem, 20 meme points for being mildly catchy, 25 meme points for being short enough to remix pretty well. I can see some combinations that are starting to percolate out of this, and yet minus 500 meme points for feeling forced as hell, trying to be funny and just no, it's not that funny or interesting. I'm calling this force meme, a soon-to-be dead meme if our luck holds, and of course, it belongs nowhere near the Billboard Hot 100. And with that, here's number 76, Million Reasons by Lady Gaga.
I try to make the worst seem better, Lord, show me the way to cut through all this worn out leather. I've got 100 million reasons to walk away, but baby, I just need one good one to stay.
So I've been on the fence about this song for a while now. I first listened to it when it dropped, and sure, I kinda liked it. Lady Gaga's one hell of a singer, and I've tended to like it when she goes more into a country or rock vibe. Hell, she wrote this with Hillary Lindsey. The primary instrument is a stripped-back choppy riff, with only piano adding more melody until the bridge and final hook. It's got all the hallmarks of a pretty solid country ballad, even with the little twinkles around the edges, which is actually quite charming. And the lyrics, they work too. They're broadly sketch, sure, as she has every reason to leave, but only needs the one reason to stay. Never quite certain of what to trust in this relationship, be it with someone or with fame itself, like so much of her work has ultimately been thematically. But I don't know, maybe it's because I've heard a lot of similar sorts of country ballads this year that are just as raw and yet a lot stronger from a writing standpoint. The constant repetition and rhyming of the word reasons just felt kind of clunky to me, that I'm not quite as warm on the song as I want to be. It's good, don't get me wrong, but again, I've heard better from Lady Gaga. Although between this and Perfect Illusion, I'm getting some idea of the thematic arc of this album. It could be kind of fascinating. So yeah, lukewarm on the song itself, definitely intrigued to hear more. Otherwise, pretty good. Number 70, Today by Brad Paisley.
Right now the whole world feels right, and the memory of a day like today can get you through the rest of your life.
You know, there's a part of me that's disappointed that Brad Paisley chose to pivot back towards more traditional country. Oh, don't get me wrong, I prefer he made this than hyper-stylized bro country or whatever the hell else is down the rabbit hole there, but he's been sounding kind of bored and frustrated within the mainstream for some time, and I've been eagerly anticipating his moment to just cut loose and do something really weird. This, obviously, is not that, but doesn't mean it's a bad song. The blend of acoustic and electric guitar tones is pretty solid, the piano backs up the melody pretty well, and you're not gonna see me complain complain that there's more mandolin, fiddle, and steel guitar in country music. And you can tell that Brad Paisley's looking for an opportunity to really cut loose on his guitar for a couple solos, even if I do feel the crescendo doesn't quite apex as well as others that he has done. And yeah, subject matter is kinda schmaltzy. It's a wedding day song where he can hold on to that memory for the rest of his life and remind himself of their love even as they're old and gray. But Brad Paisley has owned this more earnest lane for years now, and today is no exception with that. So yeah, it's good, but I'll say what I said 2 years ago when I covered Moonshine in the Trunk. Brad Paisley should be a lot more than just good enough at this point in his career. He just needs to actually take that additional step and, get there. Number 56, Don't Wanna Know by Maroon 5 featuring Kendrick Lamar.
I'm loving you so. The way I used to love you, no, I don't wanna know, no. Who's taking you home, I'm loving you so. The way I used to love you, I don't wanna know.
I remember seeing tweets that if you all knew about Kendrick Lamar and all you knew was his guest appearances on pop songs, you'd probably be bewildered why so many people consider him one of the greatest rappers working right now. And sadly, there's a point to that. Between Bad Blood, the greatest, and now with this Maroon 5 sounding more sterile than they ever have, Kendrick is dropping a disturbing number of phoned-in verses, with this probably being one of his laziest to date. I'm seeing it rhyming words with itself. You're better than that, Kendrick Lamar. Granted, the entire damn song is lazy. Remember when Maroon 5 and Adam Levine used to actually have a pulse back in the 2000s? Because they sure as hell do not have one here. The tropical elements feel completely out of place next to the fake hand clap and snaps before the beat clicks in. And then a guitar shows up to briefly remind you that, Maroon 5 actually used to try to make rock music. Beyond that, there's no passion, no instrumental color, just Adam Levine crooning about how he doesn't want to know who his ex is nailing when, between his repeated words and muted sour tone, it's clear he still cares far more than he's letting on. And it's just entirely unpleasant. At least when Maroon 5 used to be pissy in the past, they'd have groove and passion to it. This is just limp, lazy, and barely functional. An absolutely worthless song. And Kendrick, we would not kill you to actually spit on a guest verse. Bring some intensity. You better do it soon, before they actually stop asking. Number 55, Love Me Now by John Legend.
I don't wanna think about it, I want you to love me now. I don't know who's gonna kiss you when I'm gone, so I'm gonna love you now, like it's all I have. I know it'll kill me when it's over. I don't wanna think about it, I want you to love me now.
One thing I found kind of interesting is that when All of Me was huge for John Legend in 2014, he didn't really have a huge follow-up single. Sure, You and I, Nobody in the World was released, and yeah, it did chart at 69, but it was liquid and soulful and honestly a tad underwritten and formulaic, so I'm not exactly surprised it didn't catch on more, especially outside the R&B charts. So okay, maybe it makes more sense that we consider this as proper follow-up. I don't know about this one, folks. I know that John Legend touted the music here as being the real best point, but that's probably the part that I'm most underwhelmed by. The desaturated piano playing sparse notes against the heavier rattle of percussion before some of the strings come through with the final hook with the gospel touch backing vocals. It just sounds like most modern pop in the mainstream. It's honestly not all that interesting with these textures. And I hate to say it, but John Legend can do a lot more in his own lane than make this sort of generic pop material. He certainly has the vocal charisma to pull this off, but then again, the themes and ideas and writing behind the song, loving the moment because it'll kill him when it's over, he can do better than this. Don't get me wrong, it's mostly tasteful, generally kind of likable, but knowing how good John Legend can be when he actually tries, this does not connect with me. And Michael Kiwanuka, he runs circles around this sort of material, so most often I'd probably skip it. And finally, number 5, 24 Karat Magic by Bruno Mars.
What y'all trying to do?
24 karat magic in the air.
Hit the toe so clear. Look out!
And now the big one, the big opening single from Bruno Mars set to herald the follow-up to Uptown Funk, and yeah, not dancing around the song, I dig the hell out of this song. For one, it's about damn time somebody decided they want to bring a slice of New Jack Swing back into the mainstream, and the fact that Bruno Mars fused it with a slice of flashy mid-2000s pop rap with the auto-tune gloss and the vocoders. It's a natural fit for the artificial and silly flash of the song. And the fact that it still manages to feel modern is still kind of amazing in and of itself. And just like Uptown Funk, it's got the same sort of braggadocious flair with the cheesiness of his punchlines and neuters the arrogance to feel a lot more infectious. It's about the only place I don't hate outright for someone saying #blessed. Now, of course, the inevitable question is whether or not this is better than Uptown Funk with Mark Ronson. Really, that's hard to say, as I like the synth tones a lot more here with the more spacious atmosphere, but I'm not quite sure the song is as immediately quotable, whether or not the crescendos hit quite as strongly, especially on a bridge that can bleed out a little bit too long. But still, I really like this, ton of fun, looking forward to seeing this go to #1, and really, that's just a matter of time. And that's our week, and man, it was diverse as hell. Worst, okay, I know what you all expect it to be, but I'm giving this to Don't Wanna Know by Maroon 5 featuring Kendrick Lamar. The sheer amount of waste and worthlessness on the song, not counting the video, which Voltorb here found extremely disconcerting. It's awful in a way that novelty junk like Pen, Pineapple, Apple Pen really can't be. Although, that sort of song, it's a really not a great meme, it does warrant a dishonorable mention here. Beyond that, yeah, I was gonna give the best to 24 Karat Magic, but it's getting honorable mention. I'm giving best to All Time Low by John Bellion. Might be a tad underwritten and clunky, but that bridge, that final hook, pushes over the top for me, and I'd prefer to recognize the underdog here, at least for now. The song actually does grow on you a lot, especially with that final hook. Overall, pretty interesting week, pretty positive overall. Let's hope the charts continue in this direction. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.